Okay, um, welcome everyone. My name is Ianis Dovrev. I'm one of the artist fellow of the fellowship ARTeCHÓ. I'm gonna quickly introduce very shortly what this fellowship was about, and then I will give the hand to my three fellow artists to give a presentation. So ARTeCHÓ Fellowship was a fellowship that was funded by the European Commission and organized by five institutions within Europe. Um, the, the fellowship, the idea is that it's for artists to find themselves within a sort of a distributed structure to research side by side, to have peers, to exchange knowledge and to create a community in which we can keep learning. As artists who are interested in technology of blockchain, I think what is interesting to mention is that it's not only artists who need a technical support to actually make their artwork function thanks to cryptography and blockchain technology, but also artists who have political discourse and who want to address societal topics. And yeah, art workers are cultural practitioners. So from a cultural point of view, they also want to question what does it mean to be using this technology in a certain way, because no technology is actually neutral. And yeah, the following artists are gonna, I think, poke a little bit the question of what is the use of blockchain technology in historical, contextual context. So Silvia, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ianis. I will now share my presentation. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today. I have prepared a talk about the artwork I did within the ARTeCHÓ Fellowship. It is called Hash Breakdown. My name is Silvia Binda Heiserova. I am a multimedia artist and researcher. I work around the different types of mediums, such as sound art, electronic art, digital art, among others. And I did my PhD at the Universidad Politécnica de Valencia in Spain, where I was part of the Art and Gender Research Group. And I am also the founder of OFDAC, which is a platform to research and debate the intersection of feminism, art, and technology. So for today, the agenda I prepared is first to explain what is hash breakdown. Then we will see a video preview of about 2 minutes of the functionality of the artwork. Then I will explain some basic technical aspects of the artwork, and finally make some conclusion, and hopefully there are some questions from you as well. So what is hash breakdown? It is, first of all, a critical interface designed to demystify the SHA-256 hashing algorithm. As probably most of you know, the SHA-256 hashing algorithm is an integral part of many blockchains. So that is why I chose this type of technology. So my critique also goes towards the mystifying, elitist, and masculine narratives that are being created around blockchain. And it is also an explanatory process. It is a slowed down version of the process of the data conversion of the input data into a hash. So hash breakdown is also a material representation of SHA-256. It is using like 3D prints, different components to make this abstract idea of a hashing algorithm tangible material, and also it is a visual and sonic representation of this algorithm. It is an autonomous system which is making the SHA-256 more readable, more tangible, and comprehensible to a broader public. Autonomous system, it means that it doesn't need any like human interaction to function. And very important, it is an open hardware, open source hardware device or artwork. It is all published on GitHub, where there's all the codes, information, 3D models, because I strongly believe that sharing knowledge is very important in democratizing these types of technologies. So now we will see a video preview. There's also sound, but I will try to comment also what is happening.
Hi there. I am an automated code parsing definitions related to feminism from the World Wide Web. Please wait. The definition I found is
so as you can hear, it is a synthesized voice guiding you through the process. Usually the process of hashing is less than a millisecond, but here the cycle is extended into 4 minutes. So this synthesized voice in real time is guiding you through all the partial processes that are occurring on the back end. And it is firstly slowed down, but also visualized through different displays and other materials, you know, like with light emitting diodes and different types of displays and screens. And also there is this sonic, the audible part, thanks to these mini speakers applied. And as the result, at the end, you will get the hash. So all this process, which is not visible usually, is here represented in this way.
And so on. The number of bits of the definition related to feminism is.
So you can really walk through the process also physically, and at the end you will get the final hash. So some technical aspects of the artwork. So as I mentioned before, it is also this DIY kind of principle that I try to apply. So you have this customized 3D print. Everything, even the wall mounts and the component holders is 3D printed. And the main boards, they resemble the AND and or logic gates. So if you see the structure, the design of the artwork, it is imitating the logic diagram of the very same SHA-256 algorithm. And here is a connection schematic. So you can see that all the modules, the sensors, the mini computers are interconnected. So all the cables you saw, it's not just the statics, but it's functional tools that make the system work also synchronized and in real time. So for this, I used micro and mini computers, 4 ESP32s and 1 Raspberry Pi. And in terms of coding, so there is one main code that is organizing everything. It is run from the Raspberry Pi. It is written in Python. It's using a Python implementation of SHA-256, which is also open source and accessible on GitHub. So thanks to this implementation, it was possible to really partially take out the steps and comment them with the synthesized voice, for which I used the text-to-speech Python library, which offers a possibility of a real-time synthesis. It's also open source. And an integral part of the code is a Python script for parsing the data to be hashed. In this case, I am parsing the definitions of feminism from the DuckDuckGo search engine. And I also created a backup database because, as you can imagine, like with these parsing scripts, you are sometimes blocked. So in order to so that the artwork can continue flawlessly, there's this backup database that is used every time the script is blocked. And there are also 4 other codes for each of the ESP32. These codes are Python or C++ based, and their functionality is to control the specific module they are connected to, which is, for example, an amplifier, a display, or a series of light-emitting diodes. And these ESP32s, they are receiving data from the Raspberry Pi via the UDP communication protocol using an offline router for the communication. So to resume, like here, if you can imagine, is the router, which is through a patch cable physically connected to the Raspberry Pi. And then there are the ESP, which have a Wi-Fi functionality, so they are wirelessly communicating with the Raspberry Pi through the router, so they know like at what time, which type of data to represent. So as a conclusion, I would like to say that the blockchain can be also used as a thought space for critical reflection from a feminist perspective. Blockchain here was also used as a technology to be demystified and democratized. And finally, I would see this also as an example how reclaiming technology can take place through applying principles of transparency and open source. So thank you very much. And if you like to ask something, please ask. And here you can contact me also if you have any follow-up questions.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm gonna channel a question from the chat. Someone who's first of all said it was very interesting with a exclamation mark. What was your main motivation to create this kind of art?
Well, this artwork is a continuation of my interests in my artistic practice. As I mentioned, during my PhD in the art and gender research group, I sort of adopted like this feminist lens on social phenomenons, and as the blockchain technology, like every technology is also a social phenomenon. So I was interested into how we can like interpret it from this gender perspective. Yeah.
We still have a little bit of time, so maybe while we wait, if someone has another question, I'm gonna ask you one myself. Also because I know a bit your wider practice, and I think it's interesting to point the fact that you're maybe like you give certain sort of materiality to certain like technology and concepts which are very hidden and abstract. So there's materiality in the making, in the DIY making of them, but also in the handling of them, and also in the bodies, the people you bring, because you also make workshops, and you bring, you have like a quite a sort of an activist performing practice by bringing people. Maybe as an artist, like the definition of what is the artwork, is there something you want to reflect on? I think it's a good, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the materiality is very important also when we think of digital technologies, for example. We often think of it as something abstract, no? Like a good example would be the cloud, because it is not visible, but at the end there are like computers and behind it, so it's all material. And this, of course, means some consequences. And especially like in trying to materialize these abstract ideas also within the workshops, for example, this makes us much more aware about also what is necessary to perform, like in terms of decisions on design, on including like the functionality design, not only like the design in terms of, you know, dimensions, colors, and this type of design. So it is a very good practice to be also critically engaging with technology. So I think it's all interconnected, you know. So that's why I invite everybody to yeah, engage critically with technology.
Yeah, thank you. I think engagement take many forms, and this is important to show that artists have like this
Absolutely.
range of tools to actually create space for those critical questions. Thanks a lot,
Thank you
Sylvia.
very much.
I'm gonna already like give the mic to Paula. Go for it.
Hello. Let me share. Can you all hear me and see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, well, I'm Paula Nishijima, and I'm a visual artist. I'm Brazilian, Japanese, and I'm based in Amsterdam at the moment. I'm going to just jump into the work, which is called Network to Play. So my overall production artistic practice has to do with networks and living systems. And today I'm going to present the game and the video projection, because this project has different ramifications. So I'm going to propose a very short theoretical ride for the moment, and I brought this this quote. Well, first, because my research into networks pretty much comes from this opposition between the central power and distributed or decentralized networks. And this is a part of an exchange of letters between Alexander Galloway and Eugene Thacker, who are philosophers of technology, and Geert Lovink, who is a Dutch activist, and he's also director of the Institute of Network Cultures here in Amsterdam. So he says, internet protocols are not ruling the world. In the end, George W. Bush is, not John Postel. And then I thought it was interesting also to bring it and maybe propose the replacement of the internet protocols with blockchain or crypto. And so saying that they are not ruling the world because in the end, financial institutions or bank institutions are ruling. And this is not my statement. It's more like a provocation, maybe also because I know that the audience here, you are researchers of crypto and blockchain. And so my interest about this asymmetry between like the central powers or notions connected to central powers also comes from network topologies. So this is a very common representation of centralized, decentralized, and distributed topologies. As a visual artist, I am interested in questioning also the visual representation of networks as graphs. We are going to see this more during the game explanation. And also because networks, they can be also very dynamic, and this is a pretty much reduced and static representation. So in the beginning, my first plan was to make a game in which I could experiment with players and see how they could give up power in a centralized topology of the network. So the player would be like, let's say, the master, the central power, and whether this player would give up this control in order to see the decentralization of this network. So allowing other players to also occupy the place of a central power, or how would this kind of control and power would circulate within the network. And I think this is also interesting to think in terms of our social political structures nowadays, because we have a kind of power or control that circulates, but you don't know exactly from where this comes. So like mass surveillance, you have like thousands of cameras and that are watching you, and there is something behind, there is a power behind, and you don't know exactly where it is. Okay, so I wanted to do that experiment, the game, and that's quite abstract with network topologies, also a bit academic to address to a broad audience. So in the search for a framework, a more ludic framework for the artistic part, I started to research into decentralized living networks and systems. And in the past few years, I was pretty much focused on swarm behavior. So swarms, social insects, ants, bees, and slime modes, bacteria, and so on. And basically because they all organize, they self-organize, they operate without a leader, without a boss telling them what to do. And then this, what we call this emergent behavior gives like this impression of a global effect of these local interactions, haphazard interactions between the individuals of this system, of this network. And then I decided to couple this research of the networks with studies on the behavior of brine shrimp. So the image that you see now is the installation of the network display. So there is a video projection on the floor, which I will explain, and the game behind. So about the brine shrimp, which are also called artemias, the thing interesting about them is also that they perform this swarming behavior. So they swim together, and they have like this, they created this effect in the oceans because they mix the waters of the oceans. They are sort of a bio-blender, like the swirling motion of them swimming together towards the light is what actually help to regulate the climate in the oceans, redistributing, I like to use this word also, they redistribute like the nutrients, the dust, the salt, and so on. So in collaboration with two scientists, one who is a professor of biomimetics and Claudia Crucial is a marine ecologist, they were both investigating how the artemia swarm, and you can see here in the video, the image, that they go towards the light. So the light is also, I was kind of struck like with with the almost literal like metaphor about the light, about human scientists using the light to manipulate the behavior of a swarm. So they kind of manifesting this this control, this being like the central power to attract the artemias with the light, and while making this reference to the Enlightenment. So here, this is a part of the video projection. I use the footage of the experiments with the artemia, like to create this kind of video installation, which is a sort of very big petri dish where you see the small organisms performing. So the artemias, they also have to do with this thing about the network, the system, that these small actions, like the small movement of a very tiny organism can generate like such a great effect, very fundamental for the whole ecosystem. Okay. And now I'm going to speak a little bit about the game. itself. So it's also important to say that this version of the game that you can visit at network2play.art, so you can also play. It's a single player game, and it's a prototype of the game that I expect to develop in the future. And here I brought another reference because this is about the mission that you as a player have in the game. And this is Königsberg Bridge problem. Maybe you know about it. And these are the origins of the representation, the visual representation of the network as a graph. And so there was a problem with the bridge that connecting, there were 7 bridges connecting like some land masses of the city. So this mathematician, Leonhard Euler, he kind of, he tried like to solve the problem. And then he said, well, it's impossible to connect to pass all the bridges in one straight line without backtracking, without repeating all the bridges with only 7 bridges. And then later they built the 8th bridge, which made possible to do this task. So I decided to use this problem as inspiration for the mission of in the game. So here you see you are the master carrying the light, let's see, and you can guide the Artemias toward your light. So you can activate each island and make them go and complete the circuit. So this is a puzzle, and there is a contradiction added to this game, because if the master doesn't pass on the light as it is doing now, so the light is the sort of power, the Artemias do not go towards the island or the rock. So in order to really make them complete the circuit, the master has like to lose the power. So and then of course here you can see the mini map on the left and the number of islands that you passed. So if you are curious, you can try yourself, and once you accomplish like the task, there is a sort of surprise. Here, sorry, I jumped. If you manage to accomplish the task, then you become an Artemia, and then you have this local view of the game. So you don't see anymore like what is happening like in the totality, as we usually kind of think about things from a global perspective in order to control them, but then you only see what is around you, like the local view with all the Artemias swimming. And then the next step of the game would be like to transform this game into a multiplayer game in which each player is an Artemia, and then they have like to go collectively towards their goal. And then, sorry, a lot of videos. So this is just a video of the installation, the exhibition. So the game being presented with the installation. And just so to wrap up, I think like there is an aspiration in this game of questioning a little bit like this tension that I mentioned in the beginning between like central powers and distributed networks, and whether, because we have like to make this decision like every day, whether we leave the place in which we are kind of controlling a situation or not. So this game is also a bit of an experiment to see how people would behave within the network if they had like to make this choice. And that's it.
Thank you, Paula. Very interesting to see how you have this, you talk about a lot of things which are very, a lot of parallel with question in blockchain technology, decentralization, form of governance, the game is inspired by graph theory, kind of mathematical problem, and for that you go through biological study, you collaborate with scientists in universities. So yeah, I'm gonna there's like two questions which I think you can give a great insight. One is a comment, starting with a comment that often girls and women show less interest in technology. So the question is, how can we encourage female pre-undergraduates to seriously consider technology as a potential path for education and a career? Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, encourage people. I think we are more and more immersed somehow in this technology mediation, like in our everyday lives. And I think the interesting interest, let's say, is to also question like this mediation. I think it was also you, Ianis, who mentioned something about technologies are not neutral. And I think more and more we should think also about it, because part of my work, all these questions, including living systems and technology, is also a way like to reflect about the way how we think. I mean, living systems precede technology, and we build technology based on ways of seeing the world, or the ways how we build our own imagery about the world. So
Which
changing, sorry?
maybe brings me to the next question. I can like ask you to bridge that. Someone who commented that it's cool, that your work was very cool. And what do you want us to get from this work? Is it about how we act together? I think you were already like starting to introduce this concept. So
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
what do you want us to get from this work? So is it about how we act together?
Yes, and somehow it's also about collective behavior. I'm pretty much interested in this, and how we kind of navigate from the individual behavior, individual decisions that kind of preserve you as an individual, and decisions that aim at the collective, like the collective benefit. I think this is something that we don't think much when we are making decisions in our everyday life, and usually it's more to preserve our individuality or ourselves as individual. So yes, the work is also about this, like thinking about how we affect the collective.
Yeah, thanks to the aesthetic, you kind of like bring new perspective for those questions, which I think are questions which are asked in other fields, but in a not not from the same angle. With that transition, I will already like give the floor to Merlina. So thank you a lot, Paula.
Thank you.
Well, hi everyone. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so happy of being here with you, sharing our projects. And well, I am Merlina. I am a curator oriented to the cross between art and science. And today I'm going to share with you my project Lithium Republic XYZ. I'm just a minute. I am going to tell you what is it and what we are working on right now. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, this project began in 2022 when, due to the acceleration of the energy transition, the demand for the lithium increased drastically. And since about the 85% of lithium comes from a region between Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia that is known as the Lithium Triangle, we decided to observe this territory with the aim of observe the mutations on the territory that we already know that will happen because of this demand, but also to create our own images to reflect on these issues. So what we can see here, this cyborg territory. And well, to do that, we created a platform that is basically a hub to support interdisciplinary research. But we had two important goals. The first one was to encourage political imagination. And the second one is to do an experimental use of digital tools and also to make the extractivism issues visible within these digital tools, these digital circuits, I mean. So we work mostly on themes as future of energy, geohumanities, and indigenous critiques. And to do that, we create different kind of contents, such as essays, chronicles, interviews, also virtual residencies, exhibitions and experiences on metaverse mostly. And we also do some field research, and we also have a repository with content and information about the region and the issues that are related to this region. So our first exercise was to create a virtual copy of the southernmost salt flat, and over this virtual territory, we create an art exhibition with 3 artists that are close to the region, with the aim of representing different dimensions of this place and different aspects. We have like a main goal behind the project, that is to make visible all the things that are part of this territory and that are what we can say that it's not as the people see this territory as a productive matrix, because there is so much more to see. Well, if you want to visit it, it is still online in our metaverse on Hyper5, and you can find artworks of Elisa Balmaceda, Factor, and Celeste Rojas Mujica. We also have a virtual space that we use as a laboratory to do different kind of experiments with this technology. And right now we are using it as a set to interviews, a series of interviews that we are doing to different persons that are related to the region or to the issues, such as archaeologists, writers, artists, and specialists in disinformation. That is one of the main topics. And we are also doing our first steps in building a DAO. First steps is a lot to say because we are working on this not a short time. But right now we are doing exercise with our small community with the final goal of decentralize the direction of the project and also to make a system to fund the researches in the future. We have a space where we accept proposals, and then we make some meetings to present these proposals, and we have then after some time to voting on the proposals. We take the proposals, we put it on this kind of narrative format, and then they are there to voting. These are bueno, this is the bueno, this is the map that was created by my partner Christian Espinosa, where we had our 4 first stages to study the territory mainly. And well, this is it. I think maybe I was short, but if you want to ask me something, and also to visit the website where there is so much information.
Thank you so much, Merlina. Well, I'm gonna give a minute for anyone to phrase a question if they have any. Maybe, yeah. It's I think already with the previous discussion, we can see how the way artists now work is, yeah, it's very distributed itself. I think your work function as a platform for discussions, for interaction, for like thinking otherwise. Yeah, I think there is a very political, but even like geopolitical, cultural, societal, historical, uh, different like dimension that you tackle in your work. What maybe it's interesting now that we talk to people I've getting more to the academic field. Um, how do you see like the role or the position that artists can take in this kind of position, like in this kind of discussion together with other people? How do you find, do you consider yourself an artist? Do you call yourself an artist? Um, is that
No,
something you want to comment on?
I call myself a curator, but I think that maybe for some other fields, there's no such a difference. Maybe the difference is that I work more on the theoretical part of the artwork, and I work a lot with artists. I follow the work of artists and I learn with artworks. But I think that well, some of the some part of the aim of doing a project like this is because there's such a very big problems where you feel that you can do nothing, and this powerlessness like maybe move you to try to think how can you act from your role. And I think that it's, yeah, sometimes it's difficult to make it visible, but it's very important to have a space to imagine different things of solving problems. And when you need to solve it materially, maybe there's like a maybe it's difficult because you have like the wave of reality, and sometimes having a space, for example, simulation, that we are using this kind of tool, can give you the freedom to rehearse another kind of ways of solving the problems.
Mhm.
So I think it's very important, the artistic field in this sense, to create different layers that
Mm.
at the end maybe give the space to the people to imagine other ways of doing the things.
Yeah, which I think is something that we can totally see with the work of Silvia and Paula.
Yeah.
Someone also asked a question, which was,
Maybe
what?
I can have a comment on just very briefly, because just as you are saying, Yanis, there I see a lot of intersection between our works, because it's somehow an effort to build communities around a specific problem, no? Like through artwork and through practice-based artistic research. Like in my case, it's maybe like the engagement of women and girls in technology, and in Merlina's case, it's like a raise awareness about the lithium problem and exploitation of these geographical areas. But at the end, it's like a similar strategy, and I think it's a great way how to raise awareness about these specific topics from a very personal and local position. But if you like build this network and build this community around it, whether it's in an online or offline space, it can be like very strong, and that's why I really like all of your projects.
Mm. And maybe a more like precise question for Merlina. Why did you choose the lithium triangle for this project? What makes that area so important for the metaverse experiment?
Well, I choose this territory because I think that it's a case that will get worse because of a demand of a very important mineral right now. Maybe tomorrow will be another and the place will change. But I think it's not the first case that we see as this, and it was like a right moment to observe this place. And because this is like the material support of technology. Also, I found that it is interesting to feel these circuits that are supported by this mineral with the problematic, the issues around it.
Yeah, it's also
But
when
tomorrow could be another case, of course. Also because I am kind of close to this place because I am Argentinian and my partner is from Chile, so we share a little bit of this, like, engage with the place.
yeah, which also show how technology is not neutral. There is like a material reality of it, and for that there is need of extraction of certain minerals. On the other side of the planet, some people live that are more like affect from it than others, and those are the people who may not benefit from the use of the technology. So it's like it's a geopolitical question also, like what are the right of mining those lands, like in which legislative framework is in at global scale, which people have been like felt certain form of violence, maybe because they've been deported from a certain place, or maybe because there is different cultural landscape in which you believe that this place hold other sort of values which are not recognized by the rich northern country who have the means to go there and get the material to support the infrastructure of the internet, of blockchain technology, of other financial technologies, of banking, of everything which we need to have what we call a basic normal life. So yeah, it's very important, I think, to show the materiality, the affect, the subjectivity, those point of view of the people. So yeah, all those presentation made a good comment on that.
The other thing is also that sometimes it is represented as something that will be a clean future, but at the end, as the productive relations are the same, the problem is not totally solved. And this is something that is also, like, I think it's good to know, because
Yeah, it's good to keep other form of voices in the discussion about technology. It's not just about how to make it efficient and profitable. It's also, it has a lot of other layers which are hidden and which are quite hidden on purpose in certain way. So yeah, it's also good that university like the one of Frankfurt is inviting artists to try to show other perspective, which actually I will use as a transition for my own presentation. So I'm gonna share my screen. Please let me know if it's working. Like, do you see full screen my presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. So my name is Ianis Dovrev, and I will talk about a project which called NIDARIAN's Economics. It's a bit of a mysterious name. I will come to it later because my interest would be more to have kind of a step back of what it means indeed for artists to participate in question around technology. Here I want to divulge the description about this event, and in this event it's about new technologies are reshaping the art world. So technology used for art or by artists. I'm more interested in the question, as we saw in the previous presentation, of how art can actually make us think what technology is, how does it work, and why is there such not only divided fields of knowledge, and certain people ask about the technological question, some people ask about the societal one, some people ask about the ecological one, while at the end of the day there is a lot of overlaps, and it's important to question who ask which question and in which way, which is kind of the part about Frankfurt School of Blockchain Center. I'm doing kind of like a metacognition exercise here, because there's a sentence of exchanging knowledge and thought, which I think is extremely crucial in our situation to understand how do we exchange knowledge and thought. What do we understand as knowledge? Is knowledge something that is objective, that have been there is a consensus on this is legitimate knowledge. This methodology of thinking is the one that can be served as an argument to talk about this or this question. So I think as artists or people in the cultural field, we're very much trained to understand that knowledge is something that is always relative to a certain framework, and actually certain, like, if we think about Merlina's work, like the subjectivity of Merlina, history and cultural landscape context in which she comes from another place, bring her another form of legitimacy to talk about technology which you may not have if you're only coding the thing. And this is called subjective, and this is removed from the discussion. But then some people like Silvia bring women in the space to have this discussion. People like Paula put certain kind of like aesthetic of images to understand this discussion differently with other perspective, which also are kind of like not only human-centric, because it's also about ecology. When you mine material to support digital technology, it's not only destroying other ecosystem. It's like destroying the planet in which all species, the human species, live, thanks to the well functioning of other species. I think in the idea of like production of knowledge, there is, which is what my work here it will be about, is like how do we produce knowledge? What are the logical paradigm in which we accept to crystallize things, and this is knowledge. This is a concept which we agree. And the concept of ownership itself, I think it's very much at the core of what blockchain technology can tackle, because maybe I would say, like, for instance, Bitcoin, the most valuable aspect of Bitcoin is that it raises the question about what is money. Money is not a neutral, taken for granted thing that has been given at the birth of time. It has been created and it serves certain purpose, and it mediates certain form of organization at different scale. And it's important to know that it's not neutral, it works in certain way. There is way of issuing currency, there is way of like creating loans and destroying them, and exchange rate between currencies. And same is for ownership. So I have, yeah, as there is a lot of discussion around the idea of capitalist neoliberal sort of dogma, or maybe like other Marxist, communist, or like thinking about the common, thinking about this renting economy in which everyone just get their own money extracted by the people who own something, who own an apartment, who own shares, who own land. So the question of ownership for me is very linked to how do we create, how do we delineate, this is mine, this is yours, this is my territory on the map, this is your territory on the map, the limit of this object is mine. And the question of, yeah, the role of visual practitioner in that, I think can be illustrated by how the first picture of the full planet, the blue marble, which has been taken after the Apollo mission, in which the American landed foot on the moon for the first time. This picture has been serving as a visual support for the ecological discourse, to bring this discourse to another magnitude that was not existing, despite the fact that there was so much text and already like mathematical proof talking about that, but for the collective imagination of the people to actually not only be convinced but persuaded to really feel the fact that there is certain urgency. Images have a very strong power. So this can be called a sort of a collective imaginary. It's not only an imagination of what is the future, it's also like an image-based landscape that people share. So the very question of how those technologies shape our cultural, societal, and financial imaginary is what I'm interested in. And when you think about this picture of the planet or other analysis which have emerged from the Human Condition, a book by Hannah Arendt, is also describing another aspect of like these pictures have been used as sort of subjective argument to say, oh, it's only one planet, which the way we know that ecological crisis is happening is because you see this planet from far, from an abstract distance. And actually, this is how a lot of industrialized, so-called modern, very highly advanced technologically country, powerful country, act on the world. They act as distance. We use blockchain technology here with minerals that have been mined somewhere else, and we create a legislative framework here to say there we have access to that. So yeah, images are very important for political discourse. They are part of the subjectivity that we all share. For this reason, I'm gonna be it's gonna be very much in a nutshell, sort of this description. There's a sort of similarity, I would say, with Paula work on how can you nurture the imagination of how does the world work by studying other things. If you would like study certain like animal species as a biologist, you will have to follow certain rigorous academic methodology, which only leads you to understand certain logic. I've been choosing myself to study in my own way the phylum of the Cnidarian. It's a phylum of life in which jellyfish, corals, anemones, and siphonophore exist. I find this phylum very interesting because it has this sort of very blurry division of certain categories, like what is the self, what is the actual organism, because it works as colonial organism in which multiple form of cells, which sometimes don't share even like genetical code, just blend together in one sort of organism animal, which have like current scientific framework are not very designed to tackle this question. It's also like symbiotic species that live with a lot of other algae and microbial symbionts, thanks to which they can produce, they can photosynthesize, and they have a big role in the making. Like if you think about corals, the energy they get from synthesizing, they can create their endoskeleton, so the skeleton inside them, but also the exoskeleton, which goes out and create this coral reef, which are used as a structure that hosts a great level of biodiversity. But those coral reef also get eroded with the wave, and the sand that comes from the limestone of those reefs actually agglomerate, and after millions of years create islands. So the question of what is the Nidarian, where are they? I think is like in the islands, those islands will have been created because of Nidarians, which themselves have bbeen able to metabolize the limestone because of symbiotic microorganism. So the creation of different form of categories helps people to have other form of imagination. It's like it's a cultural work, or where do you choose to make certain continuities and discontinuities in the world? And we take for granted that what we can call a cosmology, the order of life, how does the cosmos work in the West, in the global North, in the industrial country, is actually the most natural one. But it's about politics. It's about who chooses how do we live together, and if we want to respect and to not be violent with every other person on this planet, because yes, there is power structures there is authority, there is violence, there is inequalities, and there is extraction happening at a global scale. We have to be able to navigate different imaginaries and to open up those kind of questions that we take for granted. For instance, ownership of what? Technology. How does the technology work? What is the technology? Is it the digital one? Is it social one? Is it both at the same time? And I think that's the way cultural practitioner like artist and designer can participate in discourse beyond the museum and yeah, with other people, because at the end of the day, everything is pretty much political. Is there any question? I'm gonna look. Actually, I'm the one who's meant to look at the screen, so I'm gonna look for myself. Okay, there's a question for all artists, with someone who say great work with an exclamation mark, and the same person who say interesting with exclamation mark. So thank you for your support, Josie. Do you have some recommendation, tools, etc., for non-artists, non-techniques who want to start playing around with digital technology for creating their own art? I think you guys are more.
I would have one recommendation. So, for example, to start play around with some digital art and the visuals and like to learn the basics of creative coding, I would recommend the processing platform. They also have like a step-by-step tutorials, and you can pass through different levels and have also this very satisfying moment of achieving, like some real visual art very quickly. So processing or P5JS on the more like coding digital side, and on the more material side, well, you can check my GitHub. There are all the materials and tutorials published, so you can start 3D printing, go find some fabrication lab close to your city, and that's how also you can engage with the community, just visiting a fabrication lab, for example.
Paula, Merlina, do you want to react to that? There is also another question waiting, which I think has some overlaps, but
I think that maybe I don't know, because I will answer with a very closed question, and it was a very open question. But maybe, for example, the getting into a DAO, for me, it was really nice to understand better how you can be creative with different ways of organizing yourself. And there are some DAOs that are more related to art and digital art, of course. And for example, there's one that is called Trust DAO, and maybe it's just getting play and getting inside and try to interact and being part of the discussions. It's a nice way of getting into the artist issues and what they are discussing and what they are producing. So I think that this is my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm thinking like what kind of technology. The first thing that came to my mind was a tool called Figma, but there are other similar tools as well that you can also use, like to sort of build websites, or really, I think it helps to understand how the tech tool works, and you have a very quick, let's say, aesthetical result. So I think this is nice, like to play as well. Yeah,
I think it's yeah, there's a causal relationship with that, and the next question, which is how can blockchain-based art be shown to a wider audience? Are there specific online museums to present this kind of work? I think, yeah, for me, there's already a comment that I want to make in here, in the idea of maybe the question of the wider audience and the specific online museum is kind of a paradox. If we look at the work of all the participants today, you do bring people as an audience in the art world by involving them in the research, in the discussions, in the workshops, in the making, the online presentation like tonight. And the question of what blockchain-based art is can also be understood in a wider way. So yeah, I think I don't know if any of you want to react to that.
Well, I think that since it is a technology, you can use it in a very different ways. They are people, as Silvia, for example, who use the mechanism of the technology to use it as in a creative way, or to reflect on something, or to make some aesthetical approach to it. And also there are people who use the platforms to base the art, or to, I don't know, to participate in some market or circuit, for example, NFTs. But in terms of using the blockchain in an experimental way, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are many cases. And I think that this is very interesting, for example, because it's not just about to create an art object, but to use art to reflect on the things that are around you. I think that at the end is what artists do.
If I also could add my opinion, like my very personal, honest opinion is that the specific online museums for this type of work, for me, they don't really work, because often they get like or obsolete or inactive. There are a lot of technical limitations. So for me, and also they only attract like a close circle of people. So as just Merlina said, I think it's probably a better way also to find this link to the other communities through other ways, not only specified online museums. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's also something about like coupling blockchain with other technologies. Like I have a work that I use blockchain with IoT. So I think to a wider audience, one thing is to have a blockchain based work, like using the technology, and a different thing could be also to have a work just speaking about it, like not necessarily using the blockchain. And I think both a blockchain based artwork does not necessarily speak about blockchain itself. You know what I mean? Or it can also enhance the discourse of the work through the blockchain. But everything to say that, there also this possibility of coupling blockchain with other technologies, AI or IoT nowadays, which is also interesting.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you everyone for attending. I hope that this talk was insightful, but also a bit provocative, also a bit like opening up what does it mean for artists to engage with technological question. What is blockchain art, and actually what is blockchain beyond the first layer of communication about such a concept that is embedded in other materialities, in other space, in other like power dynamic. And I'm very happy for the panel we had, that everyone have been able to complete each other with their own approach and perspective. So I hope everyone else enjoyed. And thank you, Silvia, Paula, and Merlina, and Constantine for organizing. Thanks a lot for the Frankfurt Blockchain Center. And have a good day, everyone. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.